this episode of the Weird Obscure World podcast.
A couple of stars wearing skin suits traveling through space and time. Being hurtled, actually.
On a rock.
On a rock. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
I'm back.
Yes.
I have a voice, kind of.
Yes, and I'm back on the couch. I was in Arizona last week, which was, it was a complicated week.
And you saw a UFO. It was great. It was great. We thought he was going to be a new ambassador to another planet, but...
Abducted?
Yeah, it didn't work out.
I started my
hard as he tried. You started your giggles.
Wanted to get ready. You didn't want him to think anything bad of us.
Nice and tight. Okay, so welcome to the show. Welcome to episode 3. We are having a great time doing this.
Oh, it's the best.
And we, as usual, are going to start with weird news stories.
Odd news.
Just, things that make you question humans.
Or question everything.
Yeah. So mine, I'm going to start out. The headline reads, because it's an update. It's an update to a previous story.
Oh, okay.
The headline reads, "The Mad Pooper is sorry for, get this, repeatedly pooping on a Colorado family's lawn."
So set this up for me. So the guy would go
out to get his newspaper.
House.
No, worse. So much worse. One, it was a female, and she was a jogger, and...
So she's out on her run, and that morning coffee kicks in, and she's like, just dives onto this same time.
Same lawn.
Regular.
Yes, same lawn. What I don't understand is, what did this family do to her? They haven't gone into that. But she gained viral fame for defecating.
Did they record it?
On a Colorado family's front lawn for weeks. And then she broke her silence, and not with a fart, but with an apology through an anonymous spokesperson.
Did she ever get caught, or?
Well, the representative, a man who's claiming to be a family representative, first of all, what have you done in the family to deserve to represent that?
A family representative.
Yeah,
So it's like her family?
Yeah,
like her family, her poor husband.
They're going to DNA test this crap.
I was on YouTube, and there's a video of you on your morning run down there at the Johnson's house. Yeah, I know it's you. I recognize those socks anywhere.
Okay, so let me set this up for you. He comes forward, and he claims, which reminded me of that congressman who was caught having an affair. And so he, instead of
you're going to have to be a lot more that congressman having an affair. That one?
Yeah. Anyway, instead of just owning up that he had this affair, he was like, I couldn't have done it because I was with a male prostitute at the time.
It wasn't me, it was a one-armed man.
Yeah, seriously. This is what this reminds me of. So this family representative comes forward, called the woman Shirley. Maybe that was just, a made-up name. Maybe it's really her name. It's hard to say. And says, we're gonna call her Squirrely Shirley.
Okay, hold on. So she's on a run.
On a run.
Okay. She doesn't have toilet paper with her. She works out a growler on some neighbor's lawn, and then continues to run with all of that squeegee up in there.
And she does this for weeks.
Oh.
For weeks.
Sounds like a rash.
So
the rash of crime.
So he comes on. Now, first of all, let's talk about this poor family. You walk outside and you notice this giant turd. And at what point do you go, Karen, that's human? I mean, At what point do you go, you stop
Who
asking...
feeds our dog corn?
Yeah, like, at what point do you go, okay, this is no longer the idea of like a neighbor's dog defecating on your lawn, but this is human crap. I mean, how do you know? At any rate, this family representative comes forward. I'm guessing they're getting closer to finding out who it is. And basically apologizes for her, says she's sorry for her actions, but she suffers from a traumatic brain injury that forced her to lose control of her bowels. Now, get this. The man then goes on to state that the woman's penchant for dropping deuces in public is a right protected under the United States Constitution.
Which one? Which amendment? Is it freedom of speech?
It says, he goes on to say First Amendment.
Yeah, freedom of speech and assembly. So she can assemble her log cabin anywhere she wants.
But the criminal defense attorney says that public pooping, i.e. defecating in someone's yard, is not... He's willing to fight this. It is not protected under the First Amendment.
I want to see this defense attorney's commercial on TV. I want to see it. This is like, you know, he's got to have the best defense commercial ever.
And then, as a follow-up, as a prize...
What's the attorney's name?
Jeremy Lowe.
Jeremy Lowe.
Yeah, Jeremy Lowe.
I am going to Google Mr. Jeremy Lowe, Esquire.
So, it apparently had become like this thing on talk shows and radio shows in and around where this happened, in Colorado Springs, no less. And because it's got so much notoriety, Charmin has offered her a lifetime supply of free toilet paper.
Wait.
Which to some feel like that's incentivizing pooping in public.
Wait. Yeah, I like Charmin. It's good product.
Do you like your neighbors?
I like most of them, yeah.
Okay, so maybe run out of the neighborhood to drop your deuce.
I could run down a block over. Okay, here we go. Jeremy Lowe, Colorado Springs, criminal defense attorney.
So if they ever do, you know, really figure out who the cabin builder is, Jeremy Lowe, the defense attorney, says that he's going to prosecute her.
He's got outstanding ratings.
And
Jeremy Lowe says he's going to prosecute?
Absolutely, because he's the...
so he's the criminal defense attorney, but the family has come to him to prosecute, we'll call her Abrahametta Lincoln, has come to get why would they go to a defense attorney?
Maybe they know him.
Could be.
I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to...
I thought
maybe you go to someone you know.
Lady who did.
Well, he may be the prosecuting attorney for their local...
yeah, but you don't usually see that happen, do you?
Well, I think at some point...
Colorado Springs is not a tiny town.
It's pretty big.
Yeah,
and there's some grainy video online that they're claiming is the Mad Pooper.
Can you watch it? Does it show her like duck away and then back to running? Just imagine the smudge of race car track in her pants after that.
Well, and Charmin did caveat this by saying that she'll have to turn herself in order to get the year's supply.
Oh, so what they're saying is...
We're going to help the police.
Be the only one in the jail with soft and comfortable toilet paper.
Yeah. The whole thing strikes me as odd.
She looks like there's like a photo cat. Oh no, she cut trowel and left it behind. Why did they blur out the log?
Well,
they blurred out poop. The lady, she's laughing. The homeowner, she's...
yeah. That's my story.
Oh.
So I don't know if there's a way that
She believes the jogger knows exactly what she's doing. Like, maybe she doesn't understand what's coming out of me. What is this that I need? It sounds like that lady should really honestly reach out to Depends.
Yeah, I think that Depends should step forward and offer her, just even if she doesn't turn herself in, just on the sly.
Oh, yeah.
Some jogging Depends.
Yeah.
Like some comfort fit.
Yeah. 3 a week. You can only jog 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Or someone offer her a treadmill. I mean, honestly, she could, theoretically, if she had a large enough bathroom, put the treadmill in the bathroom. Jog, jog, jog. Bite one off. Jog, jog, jog some more.
Freaking humans.
I love it.
Do not crap in other people's yards. What's wrong with you? That's my story.
All right. My story. Man pleads guilty after alligator threat. This comes from the Associated Press. Bridgeport, Connecticut. A man who police say placed a 3-foot alligator on top of another man in Connecticut as part of an extortion attempt has pleaded guilty to reduce charges.
Okay, so he didn't threaten the alligator. He threatened someone with an alligator?
Yes. So, Isaiah Garcia of Garland, Texas. Kidnapped a guy. Now, they haven't told us who the guy is. They're keeping his name quiet. There's a couple of striking things about the story. Okay, so
Crikey.
Isaiah kidnapped this 21-year-old guy and then forced the man to call his aunt. This was back in April, to say he had been kidnapped and his abductor is demanding the high sum of $800. So then the aunt went to the police.
Why that number? That's arbitrary. It's
a high sum.
$8 billion. I mean,
that guy could have worked at McDonald's for 2 weeks and covered it all. $800.
Okay.
Anyway, so he kidnaps this 21-year-old guy and told the aunt goes to the police. The police say, all right, try to get more information. So she asked for a picture. Well, the guy sends
proof of life.
Yeah, the kid sends a cell phone picture of him laying in the bathtub with a 3-foot alligator on the back. Now,
on the back of the bathtub?
On the back of him, laying in the bathtub. It's like he's laying
like a selfie. Him and the gator.
That's the best selfie ever. A gator on your back selfie. That's almost as good as when that guy that ran an alligator farm got his head bit because sweat dripped off his forehead.
Okay. Hold this thought.
With that, the police were able to track the cell phone to a motel. They went there, and all that was in the motel at the time was Isaiah's girlfriend, and she explained that he had brought her there and made him lay down on the couch, and she doesn't know much else. And then so they just hung around and waited until Isaiah came there, and they nabbed him up. And he had taken a lighter and burned the victim's arm and face with a lighter.
Are we talking a real victim, or do you think these guys are in together?
I think he was a real victim. Just reading. Well, first of all, $800 is that's such an obtuse, like, it's low for jeopardizing the rest of your life through kidnapping. $800. I mean, it reminds me of Austin Powers when Dr. Evil first comes out and he wants $1,000.
Yes.
$800. Like, seriously. So you could go load trucks at any place that trucks delivered to and make $800 in 2 days.
He could have just hung out and cleaned rooms at the motel he was at.
You could have rattled a coffee can out in front of a bank.
Okay, the guy needs $800.
Mm-hmm.
Where did he get the alligator?
There you go. You could have sold an alligator. He's from Texas, so Garland, Texas maybe is close to alligators.
Maybe just carries one around with him, like, load up the car, don't forget the alligator.
I mean, you gotta have the right kind of Bjorn backpack for it. You gotta cut an extra hole.
The baby tail. Bjorn?
Yeah, the baby Bjorn.
How big's this alligator?
3 foot.
Okay. 3 foot.
3 foot's not that scary. But he threatened him, if you don't get this money, I'm going to have my alligator bite you.
But then the guy takes a selfie with the alligator.
But that was for the proof of life picture.
Yeah, but now I'm no longer scared of the alligators taking selfies with me.
Yeah, I know. And they've got such a nice smile.
In this selfie, have you seen the selfie?
No, I haven't. The police haven't released it yet.
What?
But it will be. I will. The minute it comes out, it will show up on our website.
That is absurd.
Yes, it is.
Of all the things to threaten somebody with, not bodily harm. I guess it is bodily harm, but not a weapon, not a knife, not starvation, but an alligator.
That's digging deep. Like,
at what point do you think in his life, I want to know this guy? I want to know his story. Like, at what point in his life? Yeah, like, at what point in his life does he go, you know what I'm going to do? Kidnapping. I'm going to use an alligator.
I need $800.
And how the hell does he have a girlfriend?
Well, he almost had $800.
That's your girlfriend. She was just waiting for the payday.
She was in it. She was in it to win it. Yeah.
Good hell.
Demanding $800. So, yeah, the aunt received the photograph and face down in the bathtub with an open mouth alligator on top of it.
And they've caught this guy.
Yeah, they've caught him. He pled guilty.
So did he plead guilty to, like, assault with a deadly weapon?
He's charged with kidnapping, bodily threats, all that other stuff. But he pled guilty to, so I'm sure they're going to try the rest of them, but he pled guilty to a lesser charge right off the bat. And maybe it's a part of a plea deal. And I hope not, but that seems to be a common thing. Maybe he's a part of a larger alligator exotic animal ring, and they're going after the leader of said alligator ring.
PETA's in there. Don't use our alligators as threats.
Oh my gosh. That's what they ought to do. They ought to hand him over to PETA.
They really should.
Yeah. Make him go live there and
listen to the rhetoric.
Vegetarian food.
Read the propaganda.
Yeah.
No, just send me to jail.
It's like Warren Jeffs. They should have put him on house arrest. Your punishment is house arrest for no less than 20 years. That's right.
Yeah, they should have.
No, you cannot divorce. Move any of your multiple wives out. Yeah,
humans.
I just can't believe it.
There will never be a shortage. I don't believe there will ever be a shortage in. Most of them, I have to tell you, come from Florida. So I'm a little surprised that both of ours came from other parts of the United States.
Mine was Connecticut, of all places.
Mine was Colorado.
Yeah.
Maybe she's hails from
Colorado Springs for a number of years.
Did you ever defecate on anyone's lawns?
I plead the fifth.
All right. So we're episode 3 of a series of who knows how many.
It's a build up to the satanic panic. What is it? What was it? What caused it? What are our thoughts on it? Of course, we can't say definitely of what caused it. I think it's humans again. It's a cyclone of everything. It's like
humans.
Yeah, a high pressure front with warm temperatures and moisture in the air, and a tornado shoots up. Not that that's how it's made, because I don't know how.
Yeah, so humans. As we lead into this, you see a shift. There is a cosmic shift that, perhaps can be attributed to, maybe the summer of love or the 60s brought in this inhibition, and people were just like, I'm just going to let my crazy out. Yeah,
it could have been better policing, more communications. At that time, I'm pretty sure almost everyone had a phone.
Well, and it was like the boom of news
But the news and also technology is available. VHSs are everywhere, so people are making kind of their own home movies, which you'll notice that a lot of fundamentalist religions are making like propaganda style videos. That's the only way I can put it. Propaganda style videos, and they're doing it, making allegation after allegation that are almost always unfounded. You know, they're just falling off the deep end with this. And for a month now, I have been a sea of YouTube crazy.
Yeah.
I've watched evangelicals tell me that Satan's behind every corner on a VHS tape from '94. I've watched a guy telling me that He-Man toys are the gateway to Satan. I've watched it's just crazy. Rainbow Bright is a tool for the devil. And these aren't from me. These are what the evangelicals say. And I think their point in life, somewhere in there, even though I know none of them, we've gone through history. We've witnessed through history that the evangelicals that do that never practice what they preach. There was that one in Colorado Springs that was preaching against homosexuality and drug use.
Total homosexual.
Got caught with a gay prostitute in a motel with a ton of methamphetamine, just raw. But that's all he preaches about, telling how everyone else is bad. Now, maybe just as simple as he doesn't want all the other homosexuals and meth to be used up by other people so he can keep for himself.
Perhaps.
Or my opinion is people are angry at themselves for their own failings. So instead of facing it in themselves, they point it out in society and go after it there.
Yeah, it's they spend an awful lot of time trying to convince others, but really they're just trying to convince themselves.
Probably convince themselves, or maybe they think, you know, if they truly believe in the divinity, maybe they think, I did this wrong, but if I go out and fight against it,
maybe it's
God will forgive me for
my wrongdoing.
And it's sad that they think that like homosexuality is a evil thing against God, or even drug use is an evil thing against God. I mean, those are, you know, drug use it falls under, you know, a couple different camps. You know, you've got
that's
those
an
that
evil
use it,
thing against yourself.
They use it as recreationally, or they're addicted, and then that's an addiction, a disease. And homosexuality has been around with humans forever. It's just a part of our
human
species.
experience.
Multiple species have homosexuality, and as anything other than that's just their thing. And if you're raging, you know, against sex, well then stay out of other people's sex.
Yeah. So along with the evangelical movement, that proselytizing that's taking place on VHS and other outlets as a way to get it out to the masses, like we would venture to say that it's not a different or a more abundant amount of serial killers. They were just more well known, given the current status, given that we had news media coverage that was more broad. We had police officers in different parts of the country that started sharing information.
The FBI started going and giving trainings in other departments, in police departments, so that would there alone share information and tactics. So they would start recognizing that these people are there, when before that you might have a killing in a different state that matches the one you're looking at, and you wouldn't know that it's the same one. You know, I mean, look at Carl Panzram. Serial killers have been around forever.
Yes.
It's just if they move around, if they spread that killing around, you don't catch on to that. Like Carl Panzram did his stuff in Africa. He did his stuff on the eastern coast. I think he did stuff out west. He did stuff in the Midwest. He was a hobo for a while. He stole yachts. He did all sorts of stuff, all sorts of murders and rapes. And it was never tied together on the whole. I mean, Africa only gets mentioned because he mentions it, not because there was any communication between it.
Right.
And I imagine in the future our law enforcement experience will only get more to where we notice, we catch on if there's similar killings.
Sure, because now they're cataloging it in a sense. Large mainframes are starting to house this kind of information where you can bounce information out of it. And I think this is the start of that. So it feels like the lead up to the Satanic Panic was like crazy train just left the station, starting in say 68. So the very end of like the 60s, open love and those kinds of things.
Yeah, let's not deny California lost its ever-loving mind.
Yeah, and I mean, we're gonna find like the Charles Manson family, the Manson family killings. That's kind of where it began.
Yeah, that does.
I mean, like they dumped him. They literally released him from prison as a psychopath and dumped him in the 60s.
I would say
67 in downtown San Francisco.
I would say they didn't release him from prison. I would say they made the psychopath in prison.
Oh, sure.
And his first terms in prison are because his mom was
a prostitute.
I would prefer she was her mom was, along with his uncle and assorted boyfriends, she was a part of a pair gang, per se, that would hold up other men. She would lure them in and they would hold them up. She would do all sorts. His mom was totally unfit to be a mother, for sure. And then he got sent off with an uncle, and the uncle was unfit to raise anybody. And so his childhood is the thing of nightmares. If they made a show about just Charles Manson's childhood, a 10-part miniseries just about his childhood, and didn't call him Charlie, and didn't call it Manson, or didn't tie it to that, it would be the saddest show ever made.
Yeah, and we have to remember that a lot of these memories are coming directly from the psychopath, and I think that's why people have a hard time lending credence to them, is because they're coming directly from him. Mm. And I mean, he's totally a reliable source, but whatever. So at any rate, we can do a deep dive into Manson alone, but if you look at starting in 68, leading all the way up to the McMartin preschool accusations, which were kind of like the crescendo of the Satanic Panic, we have some pretty prolific, notable serial killers.
These are the ones that everybody knows their story. Everybody knows something of them. Everybody could at least walk in and kind of engage in a conversation about them. And it starts in 68. We have the Zodiac Killer, 7 people. It was in Northern California. He killed from 68 to 69, 7 people, and he would tease the police, and he would send letters to the police and to the news media, the print media, and it would have riddles in it or different equations that supposedly if you solved them you'd catch him, and whether that's true or not, I don't know. But he killed 5 people, possibly 28 people. We don't know for sure. He claims to have killed 37, and he's never been caught.
Still at large.
Still at large.
Still at large.
Be an old man now at the very least,
And hot on the heels of that, the Zodiac Killer, which again, news medias all over the country ran with this because it was kind of like the beginning of them starting to communicate what was happening outside of their bubble. So late 60s, Manson family, this is a commune, a cult of sorts that was formed in California, led by Charles Manson. He had approximately 100 of his followers living in these unconventional, hallucinogenic using kind of lifestyle. They came from middle class backgrounds.
Yeah, some of them were upper class. Some of them were, related to politicians. I think one of them was a politician's daughter.
And it's all kind of drawn on the hippie culture, with communal living being kind of the center of it all. and ended, in 69 with like this spree killing where he was really trying to draw attention to himself.
He started trying to start a race war.
And he, 7 people died. So right on the heels of the Zodiac Killer, we've got Charles Manson.
Then we jump into John Wayne Gacy. He's up in Illinois. He posed a front as kind of an all-American dad, dressed up as a clown, but he sexually assaulted and tortured and then murdered at least 33 teenage boys between 72 and 78. They found bodies under his house. He 26 bodies in his crawl space of his home. And he had a family living there. And how do you not notice that?
No.
But so he do these child's parties as a clown, and maybe that'd amp him up and he'd have to relieve some pressure or something. I don't know. But now he does paintings in prison, from what I understand.
Then we move directly. So John Wayne Gacy, 72 to 78, but starting in 74, we've got what originally was known as the East Area Rapist, the original Night Stalker. Now what is commonly called the Golden State Killer, who from what, recent DNA testings, we believe that he's been caught. He has not been convicted. But, from the looks of it and the recent DNA testing, he was a police officer or a peace officer.
He was a police officer. He got fired for stealing, I believe it was dog repellent and rope.
Oh.
So it kind of ties in with what he did. But this guy was scary to the extreme. There was one, they had a community meeting where one guy stood up and said, "There's no way I would let a monster like that come into my house and rape my wife."
Yeah.
And that very night, he went into that man's house and raped his wife. But what do you know? He was a police officer at that time, at that meeting, as a police officer.
Giant pile of dog shit.
Yep.
13 murders, more than 50 rapes, 100 burglaries, more than 100 burglaries, from 74 to 86. So, as a society, he alone would make you question morally what's happened. There has been a shift, and we're not even 4 people in. We're not even 4 people into this 10 years of fear that's happening.
Yeah, and he went on for 12 years.
Yeah.
All right, now we go to the handsome Jack of it all, Ted Bundy, or Theodore Robert Cowell, I guess is his given name at birth. So he's a serial killer, a kidnapper, a rapist, a burglar, and a necrophile.
All around douchebag.
Yeah, just a very intelligent man. He carried with him a lot of intelligence. He decapitated a lot of his victims, but he did it over 7 states, which is why possibly it took 4 years to catch him. He confessed to 30 homicides, and but we don't know, exactly how many there are. He went into court, and while he was in court, he didn't outsmart the court, but he said he wanted to defend himself for part of it, which looked like it was a ploy to get a mistrial out of the deal, just to extend it. But he was really the first serial killer that, while in prison, started getting fan mail and love letters. And Ted Bundy was...
Humans. Why are we sending him fan mail?
Hey, at least that woman who's been hurt by all them other men will know where he is all the time.
That's true. He's a necrophile. I mean, he's...
yeah.
Don't send him fan mail. Right on the heels of him. So Bundy, 74 to 78. So 74 to 86 is the Golden State Killer. He is just ravaging California. Starting that same year, it's like they belong to a club. Like they all belong to a club. And they're like, okay, so you start now and then I'll finish later.
Imagine that chat room.
Yeah. And so 74 to 78, Bundy, his reign of terror. 74 again. Starting in 74, we have dipshit Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. He, like the Zodiac, was sending like these taunting letters to the police and newspaper describing his crimes. He's got a famous signature: bind, torture, and kill. And we're talking
17 years.
Yeah, 17 years of terror. Only 10 people, but that's because he had like a normal job and was trying to hold down a normal life while he was, doing these things on the side.
Yeah, he would drive around for the city and enforce laws. He was kind of like a dog catcher without a uniform. Your grass is too long. And there's reports of him where neighbors didn't like him because he was kind of a jerk like that.
Yeah, he was a jerk.
Yeah, then we go into Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz, now you could maybe argue that this was a real beginning of the satanic panic. David Berkowitz, he killed 6 people and wounded 7, and he targeted brunette women. So there was a rash of women dyeing their hair brown in and around New York because of that. But the biggest thing is after he was caught because of a parking violation in his yellow VW Bug. But he's after he's been caught, he's made a lot of claims. One was that a dog that was possessed told him to do that. The neighbor's dog. That could feed into it. And then another one of his claims is that he was a part of a satanic cult that made snuff movies and that made child pornography stuff. So he made all these claims after he was caught. So all of those could directly feed into that, because of the claims of satanic or demon involved.
And then we move to the Hillside Strangler, and we're only to 77. I mean, we're 7 years in, and all hell has broke loose.
Oh, it's still.
And the Hillside Strangler is actually Hillside Stranglers because there was 2 of them, and they were convicted of kidnapping, raping, torturing, and murdering 10 women and girls ranging from the ages of 12 to 28 years old. They were given the name because of the way that they would display these victims' bodies to be discovered in the hills surrounding, the greater Los Angeles area. Just a 1 year span. Man, 10 people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These 2 guys, it was, if I remember correctly, it was an uncle and a nephew or 2 cousins. One was really low IQ, and the other one was a little smarter but had a grudge. And so they part of it was the sexual gratification, but I think also part of it was one guy acting out his grudge and the other guy following.
Yep. They were convicted in 79.
Then we go to Richard Chase. Richard Chase, he was abused by his parents, or so he said, and he started showing the McDonald triad: bedwetting, arson, and cruelty to animals at a young age. And that has been argued that not everyone who display those things are serial killers, but all serial killers display the McDonald triad. He used a lot of drugs in his adolescence and his teen years, and so he became a hypochondriac. He lost his mind over all this drug use, so he believed that someone soul-like body parts from him, the government or something. And then he started thinking he was a vampire. And
I'm missing my left toe.
Blood to survive. So he kind of went on a rampage over a year where he would wander around town, killing people, drinking their blood, and becoming a cannibal. Now, I wouldn't suggest, if you are of a delicate persuasion, to look too deep into him, because some of the things he did are as horrible as they get. But if you want to look at like the truly crazy, someone who was a serial killer because of lunacy, Richard Chase is that man.
Yeah, and I would argue this next guy, Jim Jones, as well.
Yeah, Jim Jones.
Let's talk Jim Jones, because we're still in the 80s, kind of getting to the end of the 80s, 78. Just a total dirtbag. You know, the founder, leader of the People's Temple. He began in Indiana in the 50s, officially ordained in 56 by the Independent Assemblies of God, and 64 by the Disciples of Christ. You know, after a short stint, here in the States, all of its activities, again, San Francisco.
Well,
what is happening, San Francisco? He then relocated to Guyana. And we're talking the end of this, an entire show could be done, and has been. There's lots of documentaries, lots of information out there on Jim Jones, the Jonestown murders. 918 people. That's and almost all by cyanide poisoning, that was put into juice. And 304 were children.
Killed a senator.
Yeah, crazy.
Or a congressman. Yeah, he killed a congressman. Yeah.
And I think this is the one that surprised me the most, because it's obviously into the lead up to the Satanic Panic. But he's doing this not in the name of Satan. He's doing this in the name of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, this was flipped to, help trigger, what's going to follow.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. But, of course, you look at religions. They've always argued that the similar religion next door is a tool of Satan, so come to my church instead.
That's true. And Jim Jones, total dirtbag. Total dirtbag.
Oh, yeah.
He's definitely top of the list for dirtbag.
He is a poster boy for methamphetamine rots holes in your head.
Yeah. And he's basically the last really well-known one in the 70s. Not that that's, not enough, because he could have been the only one, and I think could have led to like this shift in
Yeah, he's definitely a stain on the psyche, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Next we have Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. That's NG. 83 to 85. They were in, again, California and Sierra Nevada, the mountains right outside of California, west towards San Francisco. They killed between 11 and 25 people. When they were caught, Leonard Lake had cyanide pills sewn into his clothes and committed suicide that way. But Charles Ng actually got put on trial. They found human remains of videotapes and journals at a cabin where they went to arrest him on illegal weapons and auto theft charges. And that's when he committed suicide. But from the videotapes and the journals, that's where they found out that Charles Ng was involved in it. And they were just they would just snatch people up and go and kind of torture them and kill them.
And then, right up to the McMartin accusations, 84, 85, we've got, Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, as he was dubbed by the news media. Probably one of the most vicious of all, prolific serial killers.
They actually thought he was the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
Or at that time, he was called the East Area Rapist. They thought it was him coming back.
Yeah.
But he committed a crime in a community, a Hispanic community that was close-knit. And that was his mistake, because he went into a community that was as a community should be. And they looked out for each other, and I am surprised that he made it out of there to go to trial.
Yeah.
But he was in there trying to murder someone and got caught by the community. The community surrounded him and trapped him, and that's how the police got him.
Yeah.
And again, where was it at, Betsy?
We're talking San Francisco again, the Los Angeles area, and later the residents of San Francisco.
Yeah.
I love San Francisco.
Oh, God.
Don't get me wrong. I'm telling you though, you guys have seen your fair share. You really have. And so that's whether or not all of these led up to or elicited this response, this satanic panic that the evangelical community grabbed hold of and ran with, like your music played backwards is satanic and the lyrics for Ozzy's song are satanic. And
well, let's also for sure hit on what did Richard Chase say at his trial?
Richard Ramirez?
Richard Ramirez.
Yeah, he said he was an avowed Satanist.
Yeah. And so he called it out. He said he's doing this for Satan as not as a defense, but as a jab in the eye to the jurors and the courtroom.
Yeah. So all of these, I think, in their own way, played part to the crazy. In our next show, we're gonna break down the crescendo, the McMartin preschool event, the absolute complete breakdown of the justice system that happened in 83. The accusations happened in 83. And
psychological testing, the way, I don't want to disparage law enforcement of this, but the way law enforcement handled this was not the correct way.
And let's be honest, it was a knee-jerk, not well thought out, not well investigated response to an accusation that was so absurd, so out there, that your common sense at some point had to kick in and say, wait a minute, what? So tune in to our next show. We are going to break it down. Because as far as the satanic panic goes, we're still, I believe, very much in satanic panic. I think that there are more of us that are enlightened to the idea that, it's really not all connected like that. But I would say, I would venture to say that it is a trend that's still very alive.
Yeah, you see a lot of trends happening, and I think the news media don't make trends happen. I think they make events trends. Like certain types of murders, they later focus on it. And I'm not saying they're absolutely wrong in doing so. Are they wrong in the 80s for making serial killers a pointed issue on their nightly news? No, because what that did is that pointed out serial killers, and that will drive parts of the community to be more vigilant.
Yes.
So not a bad thing. Right now they're concentrating on school shooters. Now, granted, I wish they would figure out a way to formulate it so that school shooters didn't get any fame out of it. That kid who did that school shooting down in Florida, he's receiving love letters now.
It's ridiculous. Humans.
He's getting attention that he never got.
Right.
And from, adults and teenage men and women. And so I think a long, hard look by the news media to say, maybe we never mention their names. Or maybe we figure out how to segment these stories in a manner that does not give any popularity to these guys.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. And I'm all about that, lifting that veil, so to speak, and just calling a spade a spade. But I think that in large part, people that do these kinds of things do them for the attention, and we just play into it. And I think you're right. We are kind of onto these school shootings, and God knows what's next. I shudder to think, but this satanic panic.
I wish the news would come out and honestly take people that do good deeds and idolize them, not as a person, but as the good deed.
Yeah, and then like
good deeds into our culture.
And then like at the end, perhaps, of the news report, and be like, and honorable mention, there was a school shooting. We've handled it. He's been caught. Our thoughts go out to all the families.
Yeah.
And then end it that way versus...
Or just do the whole story on the victims.
That's an idea.
Do the whole story on the victims, and then we have a thumbnail that's a piece of shit in either a dress or a suit, depending on male or female bad guy, and say, and here was the perpetrator. And
end it. That. End it. No name, no notoriety.
And then the state legally changed their names to Shitterston number 2 or number 3, and just leave it like that. But we've got to figure out how to even if it's bad, it gains them popularity. And if they're going through life as a teenager saying, nobody talks to me, or even if they just feel like they're left alone, they're like, I know how I can become popular. And they do this, and next thing you know, they're on the news for, 6 out of 24 hours. We've got to figure out how to take that away. And right now, it's teenagers are the most susceptible to rash actions.
Yeah, and I would shudder to think, and conceivably, some of them were turned on to the idea of a school shooting by seeing, 36 hours straight of a school shooting.
Yeah, or a mass murder guy or something. So it'd be nice if we could get the media to
stop it.
Well, to figure out.
We understand you need to make money.
Let's do some tests. Let's figure out how we can formulate this better. Let's do the good old capitalist system in trial and error. Try something different. See if something we can do will change the dynamic.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well, thank you for joining us, but we have one last...
it's an honorable mention.
One last news story.
Yeah, so this was a pretty heavy podcast with these just rattling off the disparaging scum at the bottom of human existence.
We definitely did a walk through the darkness.
Yeah, well, we're going to go back to the darkness because this news story comes to us from Ireland, Dublin, to be exact. And I really want to get this guy on the phone. I just need to know. I need to know because the headline reads, man hospitalized after injecting own semen to treat back pain.
I have many questions. Question 1. What did you use to catch a semen? Did you just wring out the old sock into the syringe, or did you aim into the syringe as you... what did you use? How did that happen? Did you use a funnel?
Aiming into the syringe, you think, would be the most proper way because then you're not handling it twice and it doesn't lose its efficacy. And
well, you think so.
33 years old. We're not talking a teenager. We're not talking dementia guy. We are talking 33-year-old man who is hospitalized. Can you imagine? He has to go over what he's been doing because he's hospitalized for an abscess.
Imagine being that doctor, and the doctor says, "Okay, what happened?"
Yeah.
Well, I've been injecting my own cum in my arm, and the doctor says, "Excuse me for a minute." Doctor walks out the door, around the corner, and just coughs out the loudest laughter you ever heard. Shakes it off, straightens out his white coat, walks back in, and says, "So you've been injecting your own semen? Okay. How did you do this?" And before he gets to say another word, doctor has to walk back out the door again because he wasn't done.
So, we're not talking once. We're not talking twice.
Nope. It was weekly, wasn't it?
This is once a month for 18 frickin' months.
Same place.
Same place in his arm. Apparently, not only does semen not treat back pain,
Oh, shocking!
but it creates an abscess when it's injected under the skin or submuscular.
Yeah.
And
not just that, but he injects it in the same place.
all the time.
A constant wound.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I want to talk to this guy. I want to know who he is.
That would be a walk-through crazy right there.
I'm going to see if I can find out who he is, and we're going to get this guy on the phone.
See if we can petition to have him give us a call.
I need to know. I just need to know. We'll keep it total anonymity.
Yep.
I just need to know.
We need to know if his family knows, and does his family tease him?
And why in the arm? If we're talking back pain, no, semen right into the back.
He can't reach his back, though. Not to mention his shooting arm might be tired.
Let me tell you, humans, stop humaning. Stop. It's too much. It's too much.
Did he drink plenty of pineapple juice before doing this? It was in a better.
No, I don't know. But he's our honorable mention. Yes. We could not end the podcast without talking about.
We had to go on an easy note.
Yeah, he's semen guy.
Now stay tuned. We're gonna have a couple of little sound bites for you guys to listen to. Thank you for joining.
Have a great week.
Before, and the fact remains that what is. You don't understand, meaning you are not expected to. You are not capable of it. I am beyond your experience. I am beyond good and evil. Legions of the night breed. Repeat not the errors of Nightcrawler and show no mercy. I will be avenged. Lucifer dwells within us all. That's it.
What finally spun it off?
There was a lot of pressures and a lot of decisions and a lot of bad choices. I felt that at this time I had, regrettably, I mean, I look back with just regret. At this time, I had made a pact with the devil. I had allowed this satanic thing to control me, and I felt these paranormal powers. I know that sounds so hard to understand, you know, but that's what was happening, and I felt somehow invincible. I felt that I had this power, and I was unknown to me. I was slowly being led down a path of destruction.